Thanks for joining me. This is 2019's Global Psychic Collective Conscious Earth Predictions. And you can see the title I have given the video, and this is the kind of energies that we will be drawing into the whole reading as such. I called 2019 the dawn of a new evolution. If 2018 was known as the year of birth, death and resurrection as such, then that takes us into the next stage of 2019 being the dawn of a new evolution. 2019 adds up to the number 12, which in effect adds down to the number 3. But the number 12 is an important biblical number. And we see a lot of our daily human life revolves around the number 12, such as in 12 months of the year, 12 zodiac signs, 12 apostles of Christ. Christ's birthday was on the 25th of the 12th. We have 12 hours on a clock. Remember too, there are 12 inches in a foot. In Judaism, there are 12 sons of Jacob. The Greeks have 12 gods. And there are 12 imams in Muslim religion. So our whole life actually revolves around the number 12. So when we reach a year of a number 12 vibration, and especially as we are moving through the ages, these numbers give off a more powerful resonance. We're moving into the 12th and final zodiac sign of the age of the dawning of Aquarius. So are we moving into the final cycle of life of a 25,000 year cycle? And it would appear that we most likely are. The number 3 itself gives off a Trinity effect, and the Trinity is the Father, Son and the Holy Spirit energy as well. So this year coming in 2019 could have quite strong implications biblically. This could be the year that many people believe is the coming of God or the coming of Christ again. Now, some of the other perceptions, and we will move into discussing things around some of the major countries on the planet and some of the major leaders, as well as other trends and energies that seem to be wanting themselves to be known for the year 2019, such as technological changes and the dawn of this new evolution. One interesting area of knowledge or insight that seemed to come to mind was the planet Mars when I first started looking into what is going to happen for 2019. There seemed to be a saying that sort of popped up that said, struck by the seeded branch of Mars, and the numbers 12 and 3 came up for Mars, which of course is what I've just talked about with 2019 and that mathematical vibrational number pattern. So Mars represents alchemical iron, and it also represents the god of war. So some of these messages can be quite literally difficult to interpret. Are we talking about hypothetical or metaphorical messages or more literal? Does this have something to do with the synthesis of a new culture on Earth that changes of borders or boundaries or ideas or political regions, such as back in the conquest of the Americas in 1533. It's possibly about that type of scenario because the planet Mars does represent changing scenarios and feisty temperaments here on Earth. So it could be something about the alignment of Mars and the energy it creates back here. Now Mars is very close to Earth at the moment. This recording is being done in July of 2017. It's the closest it's been in many, many years, and it's also in alignment with a particularly long eclipse at the moment. So Mars may be manifesting a very distinct change for humanity as we move forward on the planet in terms of political or boundaries within countries, regions and zones. If it's not that, it could be more a literal discovery that we find about Mars. Now, this could be something to do with the Martian soil, and it could come from something such as the picture in front of you, one of the rovers on Mars may be about to inform us of some interesting information pertaining to its soil. It could be that it is fertile soil and able to grow microbes or microorganisms. It could be that the soil holds an invaluable chemical compound that we could utilize back here on Earth that creates a new modern chemical property that we can utilize for moving forward as a modern society. So that's another reason why 2019 appears to be a year of intense change and a dawning of a new evolution. So I think that we continue to move further and further out into space, and we understand our galactic neighbours with more knowledge and awareness and usage. It won't just represent Mars either. We will expand further, our knowledge will continue to expand, and we will find more and more information out about how the solar system actually works and how it can benefit us. There is no doubt that as the future moves forward, we will leave planet Earth to repopulate in other areas of the solar system. There is possibly information coming from Mars as well, that it is likely to be from a Western country, possibly from a source such as NASA or from someone like America. It feels more as if that's where the main information is coming from. And it could have to do with life here on the planet, and it could have to do with extraterrestrial understanding or information or communication. This might be in the Southern Hemisphere's summer or the Northern Hemisphere's summertime. And it could sound like a message, like a Morse-coded message. So we may receive more of these space blips or space signals that we can possibly decode a little bit. And we might be able to decode it, and it could sound beneficial to us, or we could think it is offering some sort of beneficial information or insight. But in fact it may not be, and we may have to backtrack on thoughts or directions we were going with this. Some key words for 2019 include flashes, upward movement, light at the end of the tunnel, but also in the dark, awareness, more information on the white screen, meaning our computers, technological advances, don't close the mind, belief system reviews, physical transformation, and quantum physics revelations. So I believe we will see more and more very, very quick advancements in the area of technology and quantum physics understandings, including the likes of parallel dimensions and time issues and time travel. Some of this is derived from information that was given to us many years ago by the likes of Albert Einstein. There is something about energy, chi and prana that ties in with the EMC squared mathematical calculation. So some of this really comes into force in the year 2019 and onwards. Perhaps it's how we understand space travel, or how we put together new technological equipment or ideas that can move us to planets and parts of the solar system quicker, as well as using new metals or alloys in the deployment of things such as space travel, but also possibly for things here on the planet such as vehicle composition, even for the fabrication and building of buildings on the planet. We are on the cusp of huge change, and in the times as when we move forward this year and the end of this teens decade of the 2000s, so the 2013s to the 2020s, will be looked back upon as an awareness and awakening of huge technological information that literally changes the way humanity moves forward. We are on the cusp of becoming a new species. So we will no longer be Homo sapiens. We are moving into something that will possibly be coined or termed something like Homo intellectuus. We are moving into a sphere of intellectual composition that is far greater than we have ever seen. And it is at such a quick pace, we have yet to fully understand the depth and speed with which this change is moving at. I am going to make a video on the changes that are coming and how they actually started, and this will be uploaded soon as well. We definitely will be understanding that pure mathematics such as calculus, optics, gravity, and as I said before, the information pertained earlier from people such as Albert Einstein and even the late Stephen Hawking. This information will become very pertinent in the way we move forward and will be a big part in the role of the new evolution of humans that are coming. We will hear more noises from space and sounds from the heavens, and this is a possibility of this communication type energy that I just talked about slightly before as well. Music and the tones of certain frequencies will also become very much a healing tool, and this will even be moving into the medical fraternity as well, not just accepted by the spiritual or new age group. People will begin to understand that tonal frequencies can alter the vibrational essence of many problems and issues that we face on the planet. It's probably no point going into the weather issues too much at this stage, because I have gone on and on about this for many years. I picked this up way back in 2008 or 9 and started mentioning it as far back as 2011, that we would be progressively falling into a demise with global climate extremes, which is what is happening. Part of this is due to the warming of the planet. Part of it is human derived, and the rest of it is a galactic change that is happening. Many of the larger planets in our solar system are undergoing change at the same time as Earth. It's not necessarily something we can stop, but we can definitely put more effort into the waste that we produce on the Earth, the amount of carbon dioxide that we produce as humans. There are great new ways moving forward with technology around waste on the planet, around reducing the toxicity in our oceans with plastic pollution and human waste, and building byproducts and soil being put into the oceans. This will come quite quickly, so we will see a turnaround from our abuse towards our consumption and how we've treated the planet, and we will find very new ways and technologies of reversing some of the damage and utilizing what we actually use as citizens and turning that back into a positive. There's already some of these situations up and running as of now in 2018. With regard to Mars issues, or even possibly other planets or moons around other planets, there could be information coming in 2019 or 2020 that we do understand that there has been life on these planets before, and they may find some concrete evidence of this one way or another as well, and that would be extremely exciting news. It might not be human type life, it could be microorganisms or pathogens, or it could have been plant life as well, but there is definitely evidence there for us to find. There is possibly still available water on Mars as well. If we take a look now at some of the current political leaders, and these are from July, we have seen much action and activity around the globe in recent months, actually, with the appearance of trying to create some unification or movement forward or changing of old policies. So we will start with Trump, the President of the United States of America, and see how he fares for 2019. He has been the instigator of a lot of meetings with different countries and standing up to say, a lot of various things, obviously, and it's created a very divided world. Some people who follow him and others who vehemently think that things he does are very wrong. That aside, I follow none of these in a political fashion, and I don't support or de-support any of them. This is purely information that is coming from a collective conscious level. Trump has, for 2019, he seems to still feel many blocks at almost every turn. He definitely still needs to temper himself on all levels. He needs to address his diet in 2019. It may have implications that show up as a negative health effect. He is still working very steadily on changing finances for the United States of America, and he does so with this, like going to the meetings in NATO and through the EU, telling them that America will no longer pay for all of the troops to be on their boundaries and to protect them as such, that they need to put their hands in their pockets and put more money in to pay for protection if that's what they want. Now, to be quite honest, that might not be a political move, but it probably is a logical, sound, viable financial move for the country. I get that he starts to feel quite tired, and in fact I think this is even starting to come in now in late 2018. He's possibly still overlooked with a lot of the moves or suggestions or ideas that he puts forward, and this makes him feel as if he's overlooked and not valued enough, and that irates him, and when he becomes irate he then lashes out and creates more trouble globally. So kind of if he had a little more people listen to him or try to work through his agendas or policies, he would probably become a bit smoother and a bit more tempered as well. He does still seek partnerships and alliances through global countries, and that he continues to try and pursue that and to format and structure those with more depth and clarity. But I think it's very much a coming and a going. There's ups and there's downs almost constantly. Nothing is as easy as it would seem in today's society. It is a big year for him, and I think he really needs a physical break. He does take holidays quite often, more than most presidents, but I think he may even require a hospitalised time out, and this could be a small operation even. So his health doesn't seem as good in 2019. As I said, he needs to balance a lot more things in his life, especially his diet and his a few health issues in the background. Yeah, there's definitely a feeling of coming and going, and this of course is with his political party as well, and possibly with his personal family and his business alliances. Whole Russian, North Korea and France alliances that he has teamed up with, and also the issues with Canada, are still very fluid and active and ongoing as the year progresses. So I think for Trump, he needs to, which he's needed to do right from the start, bring in more balance, more temperance, and actually look after himself a little bit more in 2019. If we look into this guy, and I think you all know who he is, Kim Jung Un of North Korea, he received a few odd cards, which kind of gave me the feeling that his country is in a little bit of dire need of financial injection, and he can't get that himself. They just have no way of doing it. This is partly why he agreed to the meeting with America and also the teaming up with South Korea and China. He needs backing, and he needs it fast. There's something going on in his country. It's almost like it's running away with him. There's problems with their land, I think. They have some issues through climate extremes in maybe late in 2018, but also into 2019. There's possibly a lot of their food sources are disturbed one way or another, whether it's through flooding or fires or biblical plagues or something along those lines. It seems like a lot of the people are hungry and the money is tight. He needs to form a union with other countries to get this money in and to get help and to get resources. But he's still doing something behind the cards. He's not showing all his cards clearly. He hides something, and it's potentially troublesome. And there is a possibility that there could be a fallout with this alliance or allegiance that he has with South Korea and China or the USA. So he still needs to be more honest and open. As much as I felt he has changed a lot, he is still hiding something. Whether he's hiding how hard the country is suffering, I'm unsure, or whether he is still not being honest perhaps about terminating the nuclear arsenal weaponry program system that he has, or whether he has something else in plan that's longer term. There's something hidden yet with his agenda. I think he needs to form a formation of three, so an alliance of three, and which three countries this is, we are unsure yet, but it does look as though it could be South Korea, China and America. And if he does this and firms it up and treats it with respect and gives a fair play and is honest about it, this could help strengthen his nation up and take them forward. He does receive messages during the year, very terse or strong messages that require him to follow directions and pull his finger out and do as he is told. So again, we see coming and going, like sometimes he's on the page and then sometimes they backflip it a wee bit again. But I think overall there is positive movement for North Korea in trying to resolve this. I don't know, it feels like a dreadful poverty or emaciation of the nation itself. We come now to the UK, or to England, and Theresa May, the current political leader there. She is struggling at the moment with the whole Brexit situation, and I think England is in for a year of quite massive change with many things. Clearly politically they are trying to move through this whole leaving the EU situation and forming and strategizing their own policies. It seems as though she has the skills to perhaps do it, but I think she's trying to be too giving or too liberal, and it seems to be affecting how the policy is going to be formed. So she seems to have a battle on her hand, and it feels as though it's a battle to the end. I don't think she gives up. She is a fighter, and I think she believes that what she is doing is correct. It seems as though there are periods where she gets quite a lot of support, and then it falls down again. So she seems to go through really highs and lows, as she's still at the moment in July of 2000 pushing through, even though one of her sidekicks, good old Boris, he's handed his notice in, most likely to cause a stir to try and destabilise her leadership. There is a sign of younger people around her, and seemingly often younger males, who could be putting a sword in the whole thing, messing things up. I have a feeling it does take a toll on her physically, and eventually it becomes very tiresome. I even feel that there's a feeling of depression around her, and I don't know that she survives a takeover bid. I do feel there probably is one coming. I'm not sure if it's in 2018 or in 2019. She definitely still takes this a little bit further, and she gets more of the structure up and running for how they're going to move ahead. But I don't know how long lasting her plans for it are. I do feel that she may not be in power at the end of 2019. We come next to this global leader. I don't think he needs an introduction. I think most of you all know who he is. I think he has just reassigned himself in for many years in Russia. Of course, it's Vladimir Putin. Now look, it appears he moves and shakes things up in 2019. And this could be encroaching on borders one way or another. Now again, this might be more metaphorical or actually physical. He himself pulled some unusual cards. There's something going on around him. Now, I've said for some time I didn't know that he was as healthy as he appears to be, but in fact he does actually look healthy. I'm thinking that this time around there may be some threat to him one way or another, like a possible assassination attempt, which seems unusual because he seems fairly stable in that area. I mean, a lot of Russians believe he is very good for their country, but there are a few there that are really anti-Putin. So I don't know what it is, but there's something not quite right with his future for 2019. And this could possibly be around the time of the eclipses in 2019. So we have eclipses in one in January, 2 in July, I think, and 1 in December. So those timing periods might play a key role for him. There's also something possibly about space territory for the Russians. They always have been interested in the space race, we know that. I know he had spoken with Trump recently saying that they didn't want to be armed in space, so they want to keep space wars out of the future. But I think Russia is making some sort of move into space. So are China, coincidentally. China are very big in this area, and I think they keep a lot of that private. But yeah, there's something for Vladimir Putin, I think, in 2019 that doesn't bode particularly well. He might need to watch who's standing behind him, and he might need to put some more of his security team out to check things are kosher for him one way or another. If we take a look at the royal family of England, I think they're in for quite a few changes in 2019. As I said before, England itself seems to be, I don't know, on the cusp of something that really changes things around. Now, there seem to be some synchronistic tie-ins or connection to numbers, numerology, names. There's a whole lot of stuff that feels as though it's happening in the background for the royal family, that it's kind of like a karmic turning of the wheel. There's a possibility that we see a new king of England in 2019 or somewhere around this time. I often feel when I make these videos that certain things start happening really soon after the videos have been produced. So I almost sort of say from the time of the making of this video, any of these predictions could start to kick into place. There is a possibility that there is a new King of England for 2019. Now, this could be for several different reasons. It doesn't have to mean that the Queen dies. She could abdicate. She could stand down purely because she feels it's time to. She may need to due to a health issue. She may stand down if she loses her partner Philip, her husband, and that's also a possibility. She could choose to stand down to let Charles finally have a go at the throne. But there's something else going on here. It almost feels as though it's not him. It feels as though it is likely to be one of Diana's children, possibly, who becomes the next King of England. So if I've got that wrong timing-wise, then there's just a message most definitely about the next King of England could be William. There's even something weirder that Harry keeps coming up into the play here. So maybe Harry gets to be very much like his mother, who was almost so popular that she was like the Queen of England because she was the people's queen. So there's a possibility that this could be metaphorical and that Harry could become the people's king because he becomes very popular and does a lot of charitable work and is seen to be one of the most logical modern faces of the monarchy for England. I think there's also weather issues for the UK. There's possibly around again the time of the eclipses, or also possibly around the time of Pisces or the ending of the Pisces cycle in and around the Easter period. So that it could be linked into full moons, and it could be severe weather issues like flooding, wild flooding and damage to the UK. It could be tied into the fact that that might be when a lot of other changes take place, such as political changes, merging under new leaderships, the whole Brexit thing. Maybe Theresa May has moved out, maybe there are changes in the monarchy. There's just something upheaval around the UK, and it's hard to definitively tie it in. I think it does actually affect quite a lot of different areas, and it's possibly from that March, April, May, June, July synchronicity, all timing around those type of times. It also affects Scotland, Ireland and Wales, and there's a possibility that they try to reconnect somehow, definitely at the political area or the political end, and possibly again this ties in with the monarchy. The phrase London's burning came to mind, so I'm not sure whether that meant again literal burning of buildings. There could be a large fire in London, hopefully not like the Grenfell Tower fire, but there could be a fire or burning of the buildings, or again this could be metaphorical given that London is the key pivot point for all of the politics and where the monarchy reside. So possibly the England itself, one way or another, or the UK does experience some major fires in the year as well, but this could be more about the fire of change sweeping through something. So we'll have to wait and see how that actually pans out, whether it's much more in the mindset or the political realm or the monarchy, or whether it's in the physical structures of the city or somewhere within the country. If we come and take a look at some of the energies of the actual countries as opposed to just the leaders, and we start off with the USA, United States of America, there's a feeling that there's possibly more unification of people within America, all races and ethnicities. There's a feeling of camaraderie or coming together. Now this is showing up in 2018 as well. I'm not sure what causes it. There have been some really sad, massive gun killings, especially at the schools and the colleges, and that brought a lot of people together, standing together to get rid of the guns, remove the gun freedom that they have. There's a possibility that it's still associated around things like that. So something that creates mass compassion and brings people together. I've got query an assassination attempt on Trump, but I'm not sure if it's just a sign of some bad health coming for him or whether or not there is some attempt for this. There were a few messages of assassination attempts in 2019, and I haven't really seen those come through that much before in previous years, so I'm not sure what's bringing that feeling up with people, whether there's just tension on the planet and feeling of frustration and anger at the way politics are going. There are still females turning up around President Trump. He stands strong, but I think there's more information coming to light about some of the hidden stories that have been going on with him. However, he's not the only one either. The finances feel a little bit strained with the US. It feels as though your dollar goes down, but this is possibly connected to a global downturn of finances. It feels as though the US goes into hiding a little bit in terms of its money, so maybe it retracts back into itself and doesn't seem to have to rely so much on foreign investment. Perhaps that means that the US starts making more things as opposed to importing, which in real terms would be quite good. So if we come to look at France, it seems as though France plays a little bit more of a major role somehow on the political stage. It's possibly their leader Macron, but again I'm getting a slight problem there. Now I know he has had some sort of run-ins with President Trump, but then there seems to be some sort of bromance thing going on with them too. So there's a possibility here of some alliance or tie-ins. There's also a feeling of some sort of assassination attempt around his political party or team or leadership. But France is suffering from quite a lot of strong terrorist activities, and there seem to be more and more attacks publicly in and around France. I don't think that's going to stop, so possibly these feelings are linked into the terrorism groups that are creating trouble over there. There's possibly some new invention or positivity that will come out of France, and this is in the year 2019, and it may be leading the way for many years to come. So there's possibly some sort of concept, idea or product that France puts forward that becomes a leader in its field. And I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it felt quite technological. Again, we're not going to go into the weather too much. We know there is a problem with the climate extremes. the northern hemisphere suffers from it to a degree greater than the southern hemisphere. There could be really extreme heats again in 2019 because of the way the air surface wind movements around the globe are changing. So they draw more heat down, or they draw more heat up from the equator, and they draw more cold down from the pole in the winter seasons. So all of Europe and all of the top parts of the northern hemisphere will actually experience climatic issues that create problems, especially with flooding, buildings, fires, destruction, those type of things. So it's not limited to one country, it's a global trend. Australia, well, the big old continent in the southern hemisphere, it's got a few issues going on. It's at a crossroads of some sorts. It feels as though there's a new beginning coming. I get the message hot, hot, hot. We know that they do get really intensely hot, but they've also been getting quite severe rainstorms, especially in the southern parts of Australia, and then some cyclonic activity up in the northeastern parts. I'm thinking, is there something to do with cheating going on in Australia? This could be in the political sphere and it might come to surface, but it could be in the sporting realm as well, and there might be issues brought to the public forum. There have been a lot of issues in the past few years with many countries involved in cheating with sports players, and a lot in particular things like cycling events, cricketing events, weightlifting, running. So there could be something pop up where Australia's involved in something that might come to light about sports that have been cheating, or something going on underhand there. They feel as though they are heading in a new beginning with something, and they're splitting apart with something else. Now, they had a very strong alliance with America. I think they do still feel very strong. I know for a fact that they are making it a little bit tough for New Zealanders in particular to sort of merge with Australia. So there could be almost not a separation of our citizens between Australia and New Zealand, but perhaps more our ideals or our political perspectives, or something along those lines could be part of the splitting apart. It could be other countries as well that are involved in this. If we look at Africa as a country, it's really, really hard to try and look into, because there are so many different perspectives of Africa. All of these are individual countries in essence, and of course it's then attached up to the Middle East, and then even almost up through to Europe as well. So it inferences a whole lot of different energies that are coming through to it. I think it has its own problems, obviously, given the global climate context, and Africa sits kind of right on that equatorial border, so suffering from dryness but wetness at the same time, and suffering from other things such as the malarial and the viruses like Ebola that can come up and surface as well. Then there's political unfairness and prejudices that come up through Africa. So it's very hard to try and interpret that as a country, because so much of it is different, and because it's such a big piece of land. However, there is something really interesting that started happening in 2018, and this was a sort of a splitting down this area through here somewhere. And I feel that splitting is going to continue. It's almost as if Africa is pulling itself apart, and that it is beginning to split and form a new landmass. So I think it's going in a new direction, quite literally in the physical perspective, but I think there might be many new directions in various countries in Africa, and this could be beneficial for them in many ways as well. So it's not all negative. There definitely is a physical change taking place on the continent there, but there could be some really good other types of changes about awareness and growth and knowledge, and maybe help and support coming for some of the citizens that desperately need it as well. And if we look at India, again, it's a kind of a large country with many different perspectives going on within it. It is a growing nation, growing technologically, growing military as well. I think for India, it talks about debt being paid off and a positive finances. So India is sort of like the new China coming. I think India is forging ahead with a lot of new concepts and ideas and perhaps business deals. They are becoming a wealthier nation. And again, huge intellectual capacity from the Indian nation. So there might be some fast jumps forward, and the merging of India coming into the West a little bit more with either ideas or directives or technology or something along those lines. They do suffer from quite catastrophic weather conditions, and we know that up in the top part, up around the Nepalese area and up through here and Pakistan, they can be very susceptible to military and warring factions as well as earthquake activity. If we look at China, their president was elected a lifelong president, I think, in 2018, so he will sit and hold reign for a very long time, and on all accounts he's quite well liked, and that has been fairly well received. China seems as though they have to forgive someone and they have to almost make apologies. It's like they turned their back on something and tried to go it alone, but it's not working quite as well for them. So I have a feeling that China needs to reconnect and put their hand up to join in with something. This could be technological perspectives or forwardment, or it could be teaming up again politically with other countries. They are a superpower and they have the strength to be that, but they need to have the backing of someone else. I'm not sure if it's North Korea or if it's a bigger community. Now it could be someone even like Russia, because Russia and China are showing signs of communication, and if they join together, that would certainly be a massive Eastern superpower. And there was that inference that I got that Putin was expanding his borders, and it could have meant, as I said, metaphorically, it joining with another country to make sort of his area on the planet that he has more free travel, or he has more alliances in power. So there's a possibility that, which would seem odd, that China and Russia might even become allies. And if we come up to Canada, I haven't done a whole great deal on Canada this year, but basically I got very similar energies as 2018. So my message for that was that it feels as though they're not too happy. There are things around Canada that there are just a few negatives, and we see a lot more terrorist type attacks or mass shootings happening in Canada, which is really sad. They're a free and easy, happy going nation. They've also had some problems with their neighbour, America, in as much as the trade alliance seems to have fallen apart a little bit. So there's been some fighting there with their direct neighbours going on. And I think this will be a little bit ongoing in 2019. The weather will affect them to a degree. It's been very, very hot, I think, in Toronto lately. And they could get really cold winters again, just due to the whole way that we get these polar weather cycles being drawn further down into countries such as Canada. So other than that, they're stable enough. I think their president stays in, their prime minister. I think he stays. He's fairly well liked, but there's still something there for Canada that just isn't 100% happy for them all. There's just changes, I think. It's about moving forward and understanding that everything is changing one way or another. Greece and Turkey seemed to pop up a little bit in the readings one way or another. It's like, does Greece get inundated with more migrants coming from parts of the Middle East? And Turkey has just re-elected its Erdogan, I think his name is, Prime Minister, and he isn't that well liked globally. He's a little bit of a rule by dictatorship kind of person. So I think for some reason maybe there is instability, or there's uprisings, or there's something going on in Turkey that creates angst, movement that isn't necessarily positive in and around Turkey. And as I say, Greece seems to somehow be involved one way or another. Perhaps it's because of the closeness of them right there. Greece seems to be moving up and down, changes political as well, and people. And I've thought, could this be beneficial to Greece? So perhaps they see some political changes, or some changes in the way they have their working structure, or their social services, or the way people get money in Greece, because they've had money problems before. So I think we see some changes with both of these countries in terms of perhaps base politics. Maybe it's positive for Greece, maybe they come out of a bit of a hole, but I don't know that Turkey do. I think Turkey in a bit of trouble as the year moves on, and I think it comes from their political leader. In terms of finances, or global finances for the year, times have changed. When back in many years ago in the 40s, I think there was a massive share market fall, and in 1987, so there have been share market crashes before, and they did often, last century, back in the early 1900s, they took a long time to rally around again. But it seems nowadays that when the share market takes a crash, almost immediately there's something else that people either focus on or turn their attention back to, and things start coming right again. So any downturns are primarily shorter lived, and we have more ways of restructuring how we're spending, or how we're investing, or what companies to diversify into. So I get the feeling that for 2019 there are some problems with global finances. We seem to get false lures, and at the moment Bitcoin has its ups and downs, really high and really low, and it's because we don't understand the fundamental workings of it yet, and there's not enough strategies or rules in place. And I imagine way back in the day, when money was first brought about, coins or gold if you like, there would have even been problems then, because there weren't proper banking institutions that managed everything. So it takes time to establish new currencies and new trends. And Bitcoin, or technological currency, could end up being the way society goes, but it won't happen overnight. So coming back to gold, or coins, or money, global finances, it seems as though there are some false lures during the year. So some of us may quickly go into investment schemes, or sounding like companies that are doing really well, and then they could crash, and so some people will get burned. But there are concepts and ideas that start as well, so new possibilities and prospects coming. They can fall, as I say, but not as long. They seem to come back and resurge, and there are new creative ideas and concepts around how to fix the problems, or how to regroup them or reorganize them. And the youth seem to be very involved in this one way or another. So younger people, so whether or not it's their concept of diversification, or how we invest, or how to get this system up and running, or even whether youthful people are the ones that make global currencies such as the US dollar or the euro, the UK dollar, whether the younger people are the ones that are making it go up and down in value. But it has to be, we have to put our money somewhere, and we have to invest in something. So it won't ever go away, it just will have ups and downs. So there we are, everyone. That is the 2019 report for now. As I have said at the very beginning, this is the year of a dawn of a new evolution, and it's the evolution of the human species. And we are on the cusp of, I guess you could say, it's end times as we know it, but it doesn't mean it's the end times of the world or life. It's just evolution. And that is the nature of life. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Put your comments below and remember to sub the channel. Have a great 2019 ahead and enjoy all these weird and wacky changes coming our way. Namaste.